Continuing here, so to finish my thought there, I was talking about the day that I remember like it was yesterday when I was 5 years old, walking home from kindergarten in Manhattan Beach, and people started coming out of their houses, and they're weeping and wailing. At that time, Democrats and Republicans, socialists and capitalists, the left and right, liberals, conservatives, loved JFK. To this day, a wide majority of Americans don't believe the official story. The thinking Americans. We had a coup. I'm just trying to explain to people what happened to America. Okay, evil men took over, Satanists, genocidal freaks. And everybody's been intimidated from that moment. Okay, I like a couple of presidents. Okay, I gave Trump the benefit of the doubt, but anybody that I vote for, okay, I'm holding to a very high ideal. Okay, and Jimmy Carter, I liked. It was the last president. I think really he was the last one that I liked after JFK. When I was a teenager, he was president. I remember the gas shortages. Everybody makes it. Oh, he was so incompetent and all this crap. He was brilliant. He's genius. Okay? He knew what was going to end the gasoline shortage. Okay? He knew what would end it. He was calling their bluff. He knew what they were doing. They were trying to manipulate markets and drive up the cost of gasoline. That's all it was. It was no shortage. He knew that. So he called their bluff. And we went to rationing. Depending on whether your license plate ended with an even or odd number, then you would go on that day. Every other day you were allowed to go get gasoline. And there was lines at the gas stations. And it's funny because it lasted probably about a whole 2 weeks. And, once the well-to-do people had to wait in line, for some reason, a lot of these people were probably invested. So, it's a very divisive scheme, what goes on Wall Street. And, they're also part of this. I mean, the Federal Reserve's been propping them up. And that just makes life miserable for everybody else. It's theft. It really is just archaic oppression. I mean, it's the same old song and dance, same old story, what's going on. This is how they steal the wealth of the people of the nation, the productive class, the working class, the blue-collar workers. Okay. So Jimmy Carter was the last president I really liked. And I think if we'd given him another 4 years, it's possible that he would have had the courage to, because he didn't do anything to get rid of the Federal Reserve, and he probably knew, too, that they were, I mean, you ask who benefits. I mean, one day, the writings on the wall, their history, and the next day, I mean, look at where we are now. We're in debt to what? 25 trillion? God knows how much. I mean, those are astronomical numbers. How's that debt ever going to get paid? We just keep passing the buck and say it's okay, leave it to the next generation? Do we know how that money is getting paid in the here and now? It is. Okay, it's getting paid through theft. They're stealing from the working class. Okay, our economy doesn't reflect any reality. It's if you're a good socialist, it's anti-socialistic. And I would point, for example, look at the Section 8, $50 billion a year goes into subsidizing poor people's housing costs. Everyone would agree that, well, that's welfare giveaway socialistic program. Who wouldn't? Of course, Of course, it's to help poor people. What are you, incompassionate? You got to help the poor people with their housing costs. If they can't afford it, what are you going to let them be homeless? So you understand, this was the pretense of coming up with this. Just saying, well, it's their fault because they're weak. They can't cut the mustard in society. They can't hold their own. So we got to subsidize these poor people. They're causing this problem. It's not high housing costs. Well, maybe there's a housing shortage, but hey, remember, again, the market manipulation, the collusion of special interest groups. The government's the worst special interest group. The city, county, state, federal government Okay, they know which side the bread is buttered on, and if they could drive up real estate prices, they can put two and two together, just like a child can say, "Well, that goes on our side of the ledger, doesn't it?" It means we can give ourselves raises and say, "Well, we got money, plenty of money in our coffers. We just did a tax hike." So you understand, it's bad for this segment of society, but good for this one. If you're, working for a city, county, state, or federal government, or some quasi proxy agents thereof, okay, contractor, subcontractor for them. You see, you're all for taxes. Yeah, the higher the better. That's a good thing. It's hey, that's how I feed my family. For God's sake, you can't be against taxes. Look what good things they're doing. So they get people to vote to cut their own throats, to vote the taxes higher. Even though it gets worse, we did this gas tax in California, a couple of years ago now, I think, and the roads. They said the pretense was, well, it's to fix all the roads, all these potholes. And they had, they were dilapidated. But all they've done in that time is they've gotten worse and worse and worse. You'll see somebody occasionally in front of their house. They're tired of hearing people, wheels slam into some pothole. They'll go buy a bag of cold mix and they'll pack it in the pothole themselves in front of their house and their street. That's what it's come down to. And this is with the tax. Even the whole idea was, oh, you can have cherry streets now. They're all going to be primo and perfect. That's what this tax, the coffers going to be overflowing for Caltrans now, the highway crews. So, hey, you're smart ones that voted this tax in. And now, look where you understand? So the Section 8 housing, the point I was trying to make was we're spending $50 billion every year to subsidize housing costs for poor people. And then as a fiscal conservative, I come in and say, well, wait a minute. Let's do the math here. If we bought them apartment complexes and houses, in the long run, I mean, you do know the difference between renting and purchasing in terms of cost, right? So you pay cash and you save, because even if you pay over 30 years, you're paying 2.5 times for your house. Okay, so the government says we, the people, are going to just pay cash. We're fiscally prudent and we're conservative. We want to save money. We want our taxes low. Duh, right? Who could say they don't? What conservative could? But yet when I say that, I'm going to sound like a bleeding heart liberal. Oh my God, give away this, give away that. Oh, bleeding heart communist, liberal, freak, socialist, go to Cuba, move to Cuba or Venezuela and see what it's like down there. So, my friends, listen, I kind of beat this horse to death, but do you get where I'm going with this thing? Do you understand how you've been ripped off? It's like the frogs in the water. They got to turn the heat up slow so you don't hop out. And the hard time was getting us in the water. That was at the assassination of JFK. That was the touch and go, precarious time for these evildoers. But now we're cooked. We're done. I mean, only God can help us now. And we've got to all confess our own evil that's in our own hearts and say, we are money lovers. God help me. We could have weaned ourselves off money with JFK, with his economic policies, sound economic policies. The best of socialism and the best of capitalism. And they've been coexisting for a long time. But what we have is anti-socialistic, if you're a good socialist, and what we have is anti-capitalistic. The Section 8 housing has just made the problem of unaffordable housing worse. Homelessness has done nothing but grow in that time. That money, that $50 billion a year, goes in the pockets of fat cats like Robert Kiyosaki, alias Rich Dad, okay? Those types. All those types, those aggressive investors that can create a housing shortage in your town single-handedly. Imagine if there's 10 of those aggressive investors that say, no, I'm getting in. I'm going to make my fortune this in real estate. I'm going to become a landlord, run a property management company. I'm going to flip. I'm going to speculate. I'm going to wheel and deal. I'm going to sell. I'm going to trade. I'm going to barter, man. I'm going to make that's how I'm going to make I'm going to make you pay me. Do you understand? So it's driven rents high and mortgages higher and higher. It's a form of market manipulation. They go out and they pick all the low-hanging fruit in your town, all the fixer-uppers, the deals out there. They go say, got to get those off the market. We got to keep these people under our thumb. That stuff's got to be unavailable. We create a housing shortage of affordable housing, essentially. That is the plan. That is the objective. They drive up your cost. You understand? And how that causes a chain reaction. Everybody's scrambling to get more pay. Instead of the Labor Department saying, well, we're going to step in here. It's the right thing to do. We're going to act as a check and balance, as a way to oversee this thing. And then we're going to tell the employers, you know what? Because those market manipulators out there that just created a housing shortage artificially, okay, these collusive special interest groups that benefit from it, they say, hey, well, it doesn't, I don't care about you. I don't live by the golden rule. I do to others the way I don't want done to me. But I'm just looking after me and mine. You understand? It's nothing personal. It's just business. That's what on Judgment Day God's going to tell them, I think. Nothing personal, but you've got to go live here, and Hitler's going to be bossing you around day and night. Work harder, work faster, and punching you in the face, knocking your teeth out a little down there in Dante's Inferno and 9 circles of hell somewhere. That's what God's going to tell you on Judgment Day. Use worldly wealth to win friends. The smart, rich people at this moment in history are going to start giving away their money. Okay, they're going to say, yeah, I want the wrath of God off my back. I want the heat off my back. It's getting mighty hot in the kitchen. Admit it. The writing's written large. The good guys are going to prevail. The captives must and will be set free. God's will is going to be accomplished. The only question is when. But I sense it in my bones, man. The people of America, we're not going for you establishing a third, fourth world country in America and keep ripping us off in perpetuity. We're going to do it for somebody else. We're going to stop being selfish for a moment and realize that our selfishness is entangled in the welfare of my fellow human beings. So I must become selfless and not be a coward and speak my mind, speak my truth. I'm a good human being. I want the best for my fellow human beings. I'm not an a-hole. I'm not a pissant, right? That's all we have to do. That's all we have to say to ourselves. And then go out there and prove it with your thoughts and your words and your deeds, your teachings, your preachings, whatever you do. Everybody's a drop in a bucket, but all those drops add up. You're a spark. You're very powerful. You have a spark of divinity. You're a human being. I mean, you have power, a very great, vast power that God has endowed you with. Okay, I mean, we can save lives or we can destroy lives with our words and our thoughts and our deeds. And you know what? I mean, I suggest saving it. Even if somebody's, the most vile among men, God still loves them and he wants them to be saved. Because apparently the love that he feels from those people, if they repent and they turn to him for forgiveness, and he says, I forgive you. Just like that. Now you get the same reward as these people that live their lives in righteousness, that have borne the heat of the day, the workers in the field, the preachers and teachers, the righteous out there, and the nice guys of our world. Okay? You get the same reward as them, eternal life in paradise on earth. You understand? So, I mean, that's what God says to do. That's the message to the wicked, the evildoers. What do I want for them? I wouldn't even stick them in jail. I would much less execute them. I don't want to walk around with a bunch of hatred in my heart. I say just put them in ethics rehabilitation centers. Get rid of all the jails. Explain to people why what they did is not acceptable, why it's wrong, why it's immoral or unethical. Okay, and when we get through them, and so that they understand and we're convinced. So you just monitor them. You just have friends check on them, and you may do it in a civilized manner where you're really trying to see results and be effective, see fruit from what your explanation. Did I get through to them? Do they understand why? So are they going to live in peace and harmony and with their fellow human beings now, and they can get out of this ethics rehab center where they're confined? That's all I would do to them. And it's God. The only way I can have that kind of paradigm in my heart is because God allows it. He says that's the right way to look at this thing, like the prodigal son. So you got to forgive. I mean, God gets a whole lot of love. It's like those that have loved little, okay, it's it. I mean, it's just a lukewarm relationship they might have with God. Well, yeah, I've always been a good guy, goody two-shoes, righteous person. And so it's kind of okay. You get everything forever. You're gonna live in paradise forever. That's a given. Just like the prodigal son, the grumbling brother. He was going to get all the inheritance from his dad. That was a given. He was a loyal son. Okay, but so was the one that ended up going and living in debauchery for a period of time. So the Labor Department, you understand why we needed the Labor Department involved? Because if they had done that, it would have prevented what's happened in America, this wealth imbalance The most important asset every nation has is its willing workforce. Willing, I say, because uh, the uh, the the option to willing, the alternative to a willing workforce, is an enslaved workforce. And what they've done is they've gradually normalized slavery. And why do tyrants want slaves? Why do evil men